Welcome to the ActivateCX podcast, where we demystify and clarify the direction of CX. My name's Frank Rogers. I'm your host, and I help brands grow with better CX, AI, and self-service. Today, we're unpacking Sprinklr, and we have special guests, Vigeland and Vicky Tran. We're going to get into the weeds of this incredible contact center technology. Let's not waste any time. Let me welcome to the stage Vicky and Jay. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us. It's great to be here.
Yeah,
it's great to have you here. So I know today we're going to be tag teaming this unpacking of your technology. And for the most part, in the process of doing this, I know, Jay, you're pretty much going to lay down an incredible track of bringing context and focus. Vicky, I think you are the one that opens up our eyes to the application. You'll be giving us this great visualization of the solution, because as we're unpacking it, we want to see what it looks like, how it walks, how it talks. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it.
Cool.
When you can see it, right? That's a big one. It's really
nice. Yeah, right. We're not just going to talk about it in the abstract. Right? Exactly. Yeah. So let's go ahead and start, first of all, by talking about Sprinklr, and I call it this uncontact center. Sprinklr is somewhat new on the contact center scene, but it's winning big business, and probably for a very big reason, in the fact that it's born in marketing. It's natively built on channels and AI. I know it's not brand new. It's not an overnight success. Jay, maybe you can kind of unpack for us a little bit the origination story of Sprinklr.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't heard about Sprinklr before, we've been around about 14 years. We're a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange, and we're tipping the scales around $750 million in recurring yearly revenue. But indeed, we were born on the marketing side of the house, if you will. We were very early in adopting and supporting large enterprises at the time, dipping their toes in social media. And we really grew with them. So our largest customers would, challenge us for more and more use cases, more and more interesting functionalities that they were looking to engage with their prospects, customers, or even citizens, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so with that experience of having all these years in the social and digital space, turns out that's where the whole industry is going from a contact center perspective, right? No one wants to call anymore. Some do, some don't. It's really a generational thing. And even within the generational aspect of it, at each generation, there's different preferred digital channels. And we've just mastered this. I mean, this is what we've done so incredibly well. View it as social customer service. And then you're correct, in the contact center space itself, we've been there roughly 2 years. And yes, we are winning massive deals, whether they be a very strategic 50 agent contact center deal, or recently we announced one in Europe that's 40,000 seats. So we definitely have the ability to scale. We've been serving the largest brands in the world over the years, whether it's Microsoft or Dell or Samsung, et cetera. So we're really here, and I consider us to be really a disruptor in this space.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. I remember many years ago walking down Congress Avenue and seeing the Sprinklr office, and immediately just, from my phone, just Googling, who is this company? And it was primarily focused on marketing and social. So as you've evolved, I know for you, Vicky, you're so closely tied to providing potential customers with a view of this solution. Typically, when you're doing that, what is probably the biggest surprise that you see on the faces of those that are present when you demonstrate the solution?
Yeah, so some of the biggest surprises that we see, or at least I've seen in my experience, are whenever we pull up a truly omni-channel platform. And we're going to get into it a little bit more, but they're shocked to see that an agent can take care of a live chat, an email, a phone call, all in one place. They can follow their customer on their channel of choice.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, well, let's jump into that, because you bring that up right away. And so let's talk about up-leveling omnichannel. And I think that this is an interesting subject for the very reason that most contact centers are more multi-channel than they really are omnichannel. And maybe let's be real about this. Most organizations still are very heavily centered on voice and maybe email and chat. So they've got maybe 2 or 3 channels alive, but there's much more. Social listening is big. Being able to communicate internationally, maybe through solutions like WhatsApp. Again, because you have this born and omnichannel view, Jay, maybe I was wondering how you could kind of take us through this omnichannel view and maybe how you see that going forward, what the future of omnichannel looks like.
Yeah, I think the future says there's going to be more channels that we haven't even heard of yet, right? And so the ability to adapt and grow with that has been really a strength for Sprinklr. You mentioned global. Indeed. I mean, there's WhatsApp, WeChat, Line, Viber, Kakao Talk, Apple Business Chat, Google Business Chat. And I think one of the challenges that we see our customers face before they come to Sprinklr is that they actually want to do fewer channels because they think more channels is going to be harder. And it shouldn't be, right? It should be a view of almost being channel lists, which is I just want to communicate with my prospects and customers on the channel of their choice, not forcing them into your stream. And so I think that is really the bar that should be out there. And then the other thing that we find is that there is a preconceived notion that voice is always going to be better, that you're going to have a higher CSAT score, for example, with voice. And with some of our largest customers, with some of the most complex set of SKUs and products and technological challenges when they do customer service, have up to 5 points higher CSAT score on digital, right? And even automated through bots. You can really have a world-class, unique experience through digital channels these days if you pick the right provider.
That makes a lot of sense. Maybe Vicky, I'm gonna throw up here your interface, and I would love for you to kind of unpack this for the audience because I believe that seeing is believing, and there's some magic here.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we get too deep into this, I just wanted to bring up a specific point. So there's a logic behind this. We kind of talk about how this is kind of better for the business, or like sometimes we think of a voice phone call might be better for a customer. But if we're just thinking about it, if a customer asks, how do I return or how do I exchange this? What does it matter what channel it's on? Like it could come through email. If it's on a Twitter DM, it's the same question. So why separate your agents by channel if they have the skill to answer that question regardless of the channel?
Yeah, so that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we got my screen shared right now. And then for our friends without video right now, we're looking at the agent desktop, where an agent spends about 99% of their time responding to customers. So it is omnichannel or channel-less. So meaning all of this past conversation history is in one easy pane for the agent. So right now I'm looking at a single fluid feed of a person, Nick Katero, our customer, chatting with a live chat. And then switching over to channel voice or to a voice channel. We see the entire call transcription going on right here between the agent and the customer. And then at the very end, the customer asks, hey, can you send me an email summary of everything that we talked about? Absolutely. And this is coming from the same agent, and it's following the customer on their channel of choice.
So Vicky, like this, excuse me, this concept of channel elevation, channel escalation happens fluidly in one screen for the agent. So it's a single pane of glass.
You got it.
Yeah, and Frank, when we talk about the summarization as well, it's the entire conversation. It doesn't say, well, this is what you said on the phone, and this is what you were doing over in live chat, and this is what happened in the DM. It's a case. So there's an entire case management system built into the Sprinklr console and system. That also integrates with other key platforms. If a customer has another preferred CRM, for example.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that's really powerful when when we look at your interface versus other contact center interfaces, it's really clear that from the very beginning, channels were core to the entire solution. And I know that we will break that down more as we look at the marketing aspects of this, because this has such a broad play in the enterprise. We think many times around a contact center as being something that is working strictly on advocacy or maybe adoption for a customer and their clients. But truly, what this is about is fundamentally being able to support the revenue generating side of the business as well. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about right time, right AI. And AI is the topic today. It is front and center. And it's new for many traditional contact centers where they're integrating and incorporating AI into the Sprinklr or into their contact center mix. At Sprinklr, it seems like that's been a go-to-market from day one. Is that true, Jay?
Yeah, Frank, it's a great lead in from a perspective on several different fronts. One is, yes, you're right. I would say we've been AI centric for about 7 years of our history. That's really when we made the switch, if you will, to have it be at the core. And at the core, I think is a critical differentiator. A lot of people are challenged with, okay, well, we have live chat, we need AI for our live chat. Okay, we want to do QM. We want to do quality management around the phone calls after the fact. Well, why do you do it after the fact? And why do you have a different provider for AI than your chatbot? Like, those are all that speaks to is integration hurdles. And so when we talk about AI, we talk about it within the entire platform, regardless of the user, and we're just trying to make their job more enjoyable, right? Believe it or not, have an agent actually enjoy their role and their job and not be so stressed trying to find resources. So there's a lot of things in and around agent assist, but we also do this across 100 plus languages. We also do this across verticals. So Vicky was mentioning, summarization, or maybe it's a specific vertical around banking, right? You don't go and have to train our AI to understand what the common inquiries are going to be. We have entire libraries of them. For example, what's my balance? I'd like to open up a new account. I'd like to transfer money. We're not a toolkit. We come in with a pre-built, verticalized set of AI for your particular industry. And then, of course, it learns over time, or we can load up hundreds of hours or thousands of hours of phone interactions and even have the model trained that way. So it's about continuous improvement, but you don't start from scratch. And I think that's a real key thing to think about when people are entertaining a purchase of AI.
So it sounds like when it comes to AI, Sprinklr has this mindset of having these solution accelerators, the ability to move quickly into AI. But we also know that there's an adoption phase, an area where discovery is important, where you need to uncover inside the business where the obstacles and the problems and the friction is, where we need to be able to understand that journey. I would imagine that as part of how you engage with the client, I know that's how we do it, how we work together with you, that in that discovery, we document that extremely well so that we have a clear go-to-market plan.
Yeah, and Frank, back to one of your themes before about the future. Some of the future is now, right? Chat GPT, large language model,
right?
Integrations. That's really the what's brought AI into the forefront of people's conversations. Mm-hmm. And we've also adopted that as well. So we've been working with OpenAI for almost 4 years. And in our platform, we provide great guardrails for the query and response for those large language model engines. And we provide our customers a choice. So you can use OpenAI. We also announced that we're now deployed and live with Google Vertex, which is their commercial version of Bard, if you will. And then there's others that we'll be adding as well, because obviously Amazon has Bedrock, even Meta has new offerings in this space. And so we really say, don't pick one, pick the one you want, and we'll give you the option from a customer choice perspective. And that's just an enhancement to what I would say Maybe it's 90% Sprinklr AI, 95%, and then we utilize these large language models for specific tasks, like Vicky noted, of summarization. That's one thing large language models are very, very good at. But it could be on the marketing side as well. I think we'll touch on that in our dialogue going forward.
Awesome. Vicky, how would that look in the interface?
Yeah, so let me go ahead and throw up my screen here. So a really cool way that some of this AI actually comes to fruition is in our quality management piece. So to back up a little bit, if we haven't noticed already, Sprinklr does everything in the areas of customer service and as well as marketing, which we'll touch on later, like Jay mentioned. But one element of this is quality management. So if we're thinking about this, oftentimes companies, like, they have maybe 1 or 2 quality managers that maybe can audit 2, 3, 5% of all of their cases coming in. And by the time they've tallied up all the trends that they're seeing, it might be a little bit too late to give that type of insight back to the whole customer service center so that they can act on it. So what Sprinklr has done here, if we're looking at one particular case, there's a lot going on right here, but we're looking at one particular case with AI scored quality breakdown. So what this means is that 100% of cases can get run through this AI model, and they're scored, these agents are scored on some of these softer skills. So opening quality, like, did they mention their name? Did they say hi properly? Did they mention the brand name? Did they handle close times or hold times well, or did they interrupt the customer, for example? So every single case that hits Sprinklr will get run through this AI model.
And Vicky, this is happening throughout the day, correct? This isn't happening, in intervals of every 2 hours, there's an update. This is something that is real time and fluid.
Yeah, this is instantaneous for every single case.
And if I may, even to the point of escalation. So it live as the case or as a conversation is happening or the interaction is happening, it's also being scored. And if we have a drop in CSAT during the phone call, the AI is identifying that and can even alert the manager and then provide the manager with a summary, and then that manager then can jump into the call and try and assist if it's really going poorly.
So since you have this real-time translation underway, does this make itself into being able to provide agent support, agent assist?
Yes, and I think in the previous screen, Vicky, when she was highlighting the agent console, there were things called agent nudges and some other, as you see here, agent nudges and smart assist. Those panes, if you will, are going to be dynamic during the entire interaction, where it is listening to the AI is listening to the interaction, the phone call, and then making suggestions on next suggested response, as simple as that. Or it could be like, here's a similar case that will help you, because it's looking through the entirety of, there you go. Like, here's some historical information, another case that might help you out to resolve this customer's issue. Or it could trigger a workflow that says, hey, they just asked to open up a new account, and then it'll walk them through all the steps required. Thank you very much, Vicky. Perfect. All the steps that are required to be able to assist that customer in terms of even gathering personal information, which is done in a secure way. 13 of the top 14 banks in the world utilize Sprinklr. So we have gone through the security rigor and all the different issues that you need to address to ensure you can provide service in these scenarios at a very secure way.
And is all this based on or predicated on the fact that you've built a knowledge base inside of this solution so that organizations can configure it towards whatever their needs are?
Yeah, so there is a knowledge base that Sprinklr provides, or you can tap into a third-party knowledge base if that's the case. In addition to that, the AI is creating and updating a knowledge base of its own, right? And learning over time, as we spoke about, in the various languages as well. So there's when you deal with the world's largest brands on the planet, they don't operate in English, right? Many of our customers will operate in 66, 70 languages on our platform, depending on the region, depending on the interaction. And then you have scenarios as well where the agent speaks English, but the inbound speaks another language. And we have translation capabilities as well in real time.
That's powerful. That's incredibly powerful. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about deflection. So I actually just deflected. See how that works. And
First one.
boom, irony. So deflection and containment are really a big part of the conversation that pertains to self-service. And it's probably one of the areas where organizations are working through a process of how they're going to grow their business, how they're going to handle that customer load, the amount of agents that are needed to support that. And so now there's this blend of human agent, digital, intelligent virtual agent construct. And so deflection is part of a process of the customer journey, and it takes a lot of inspection. And I know that because your solution is omnichannel, AI-based, it has self-service componentry within it. Maybe you can unpack a little bit about maybe the top 3 or 4 deflection techniques and show that as well, giving our audience a sense of what you can do directly with the platform.
Well, maybe I'll start, Vicky, and then you want to show. So, I mean, I think one scenario that I think always blows people's mind is we have a high-tech client, and inside their contact center, they actually purposefully drove up hold times because culturally you have to shift your customers as well. Right. They drove up hold times, not to have them be dissatisfied, but to encourage them to be deflected into a digital channel, which, as I described before, is not only more affordable, but it actually can be a higher level of customer experience. And usually once an individual customer moves to a digital channel, they'll do that in the future as well. They have a positive experience and they're like, oh, that's so much faster, so much better. I got what I needed. And then they'll leave the entry being first for phone. And they'll just switch to digital.
And will Sprinklr manage those preferences around the customer? So as the customer makes choices in their digital path, that it now knows the preference of this individual coming in and might even drive a faster routing of the resolution.
Yeah, our routing rules are not just determined by some skill set or preferential, grid, if you will. But we've also, because AI is everywhere, we've also adapted our AI to be able to do some smart routing and smart pairing as well. So it's going to find the right channel or the right person based off of historical and predictive assignment.
Nice.
And to paint that picture a little bit more, if we're thinking about what do we mean by offering up another channel so that they can switch to a digital channel? So say, for example, you call into a, let's say a pharmacy. You call into a pharmacy and you have the options to press 1 to refill a prescription, press 2 to change your address on file, press 3 to talk to an agent. So you might, one way that we're thinking about the self-service or the deflection is through this IVR, so pressing those buttons. So you could press 1 to actually refill your prescription, do the entire interaction all through that IVR. You could press 3 to talk to an agent. You might get a notification saying your whole time is 21 minutes. You don't want to wait for that. Yeah. So another option could be, do you want to switch over to SMS? Do you want to switch over to WhatsApp, for example? And you have that option to continue the conversation with an agent on that live or on the live chat on the SMS.
Incredible.
Yeah. And another way that we think about self-service or thinking about deflection is through our communities. Have we heard of that before?
I have, but why don't you unpack that a little bit? Because I know that like communities and knowledge base is like one method of ensuring that your customer is educated to a level that they're actually more effective when they do engage elsewhere inside the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again just to show you what that kind of looks like. All right, so let's say, so for example, Simply Safe is a customer of ours. If you haven't heard of them, super cool brand. They do a house security system with wireless devices like cameras, video doorbells, etc. But let's say that I recently switched to Google Fiber. I got a whole new Wi-Fi set up and I need to reconnect my Simply Safe devices to the new Wi-Fi. So what do I do first? I have the options, of course, to call them, but I'm a proactive self-serve kind of gal. So I might Google, how do I change my Simply Safe Wi-Fi? And automatically through this Google search, I get some answers and I can always click in to their community. And I see that somebody else looks like Ropulse had the same question as me. He asked his entire network of Simply Safe users and the Simply Safe brand. And one of those Simply Safe community admins was able to get back to him and tell him, this is how you set it up again.
So this is powerful because obviously this is being moderated by your team as well. When I say your team, it would be the customer's internal team that works around support or whatever that. This could be on the pre-sale side of the business as well. So this allows this community to help educate the rest of the community and help source solutions to particular problems. And I would imagine that some of this right here, does it make its way into part of your knowledge base downstream? Do you have the ability to move this content seamlessly into knowledge base?
Yeah. So whenever we think about knowledge base, that's kind of twofold. So part of it is available for customers like myself to self-serve on the community. So you'll have knowledge base articles, different categories, different questions that people ask with some explanations in those knowledge base articles. But how we reuse that internally is for agents. And we saw it a little bit earlier in the agent desktop, but those same knowledge base articles are fed to the agent in real time based on the case at hand. So the agent can quickly click in, highlight a piece, and then send it over to the customer.
A couple more points, Frank. I think that this is another channel, right? I mean, you can view it that way.
It is.
So the agent could also receive, unresponded to community notes, right? So somebody may ask a question, it sits there for a certain amount of time, no one has the answer, it actually creates a case and an agent can respond, right? And then the agent is effectively updating the content. And the other thing is how many CCaaS providers have you had that show a demo that starts with a Google search?
Very few.
Very few, right?
Yeah.
Because the goal is to, one of our positions is that the best experience is when you don't have one, when you don't actually have to call into the contact center, when you can avoid it altogether. And that's what we consider proactive customer service. We've provided an environment. The knowledge base has been search engine optimized by Sprinklr. That's why it was the top search result. So that's part of our platform as well, as taking that knowledge base, optimizing it. So when someone searches for help, which is the first thing I do, I Google it, right? That knowledge base article is going to be prioritized and preferred and take them either into just an answer right there or into a community product such as this.
There's a lot of moving parts here. And when I look at the various different components, the different channels, I think that there's a variety of journeys underway, and that obviously with inside your platform, you must have a way of orchestrating all this. Vicky, can you just give like a snapshot of that orchestration model? Because ultimately, when we're working with clients and we start to unpack these journeys, we start to unpack their existing journeys, the level of detail becomes immense. And as a result, having a clean slate where you can go in and orchestrate a journey is really important, and one place to do it, one ring to rule them all. How does that look inside of Sprinklr?
Yeah, so a lot of that does come together. If we're thinking about that proactive customer experience, one way that we can orchestrate or bring all these different channels together to make sure we meet their channels or meet customers on their channel of choice is through our journey facilitator. Okay, so one way all this comes together, this whole omni-channel experience, how we meet customers on their channels of choice is, and for our friends who don't have any visuals right now, we're showing a little map of every single way that we could drop communications to a customer. So this could be on email. And then if we can present a little bit of logic in here. 3 days later, if they didn't respond to our email, next, let's send them a text message. Let's next connect with them on Twitter and send them a DM. So this is one way that it all really comes together.
Yeah, that's a powerful view. And across all contact centers, there is this concept of a studio or an orchestration engine, but it's not always unified across all channels. And so the centricity of your solution being born in omnichannel from the very beginning is hugely strategic and important to the customer, and maybe kind of leads into our next segment. You put your marketing in my peanut butter. Like, what happened? Like, I was sitting here fine. I had my marketing and this peanut butter, this contact center was sitting over here. And all of a sudden, things changed. It's delicious. And Sprinklr is different. So, marketing and the contact center are becoming fast friends. As the CMO starts to, carve out a technology budget, which is rivaling that of the CIO, the buyer of the contact center is changing. And most notably, it's being sponsored by people in the organization that are looking at revenue generation. How do we keep clients? How do we get clients? And so this born in marketing is probably an advantage for you. And it would be really great to understand, because we've been looking so far at what are quintessential contact center componentry. But what we haven't looked at is your marketing componentry, which is a completely different spin on the contact center. So, Jay, like what's the most compelling element of the Sprinklr offering as it would look to the CMO?
I think the buzzword these days is CX, right? Or the two letters, which is customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
Who best to own that vision of the experience in the CMO, right?
Correct.
And no longer just in the world of advertising, marketing, engagement, and sales, but also in customer service. And so, we kind of view it in a couple different ways depending on our platform view. But one of them is the contact center is a wealth of information, because they're talking to you. They're talking to your face, right?
Mm-hmm.
In our platform, we have the world's largest listening platform as well, where we ingest essentially every public conversation globally. Don't worry, we're not in any private conversations at all. But everything that's said within the public sphere is ingested. And so we can really see what people are saying, if you will, behind your back. So talking to your face and behind your back. And as a CMO, I want to know all of that. And usually the silo called the contact center is run by a performance metric of, as we've discussed, of either CSAT or NPS. Well, what about the actual conversation? What about the insights that they're giving you on your product? That it's difficult to set up Wi-Fi, per Vicky's, right? I'm having a hard time setting up Wi-Fi. Well, maybe you should do a campaign about how great it is now, because you've made product improvements based on that feedback. And now you can go market that, right? And so there should be a complete transparency between the organizations in the unsiloed world, if you will. And that's where we uniquely can do that. Even down to the scenario of being able to, if someone talks, how many times have you called into a contact center or made a request online to a customer service agent that you share, I don't like X. I don't like your red shoes, for example. And you hang up and tomorrow you get an ad for red shoes. And you're like, you're not listening to me. I literally told you I don't like these red shoes. Now you keep spending money trying to get me to buy them. Like, that scenario can be facilitated within the Sprinklr platform, which is incredibly unique, where the contact center conversation or interaction is driving my audience curation and my campaign on the marketing side.
Jay, I mean, typically in an organization, those data sets are siloed.
Yeah.
They don't interact with each other. In fact, it's the advent of the customer data platform is there to help provide that routing of data and that re-information. But what you're saying is that with inside of Sprinklr, when you have knowledge of something happening in the larger public domain, or you have knowledge of something that happened real time with a customer, you're going to be able to cut off nonsensical communications going forward that are contradictory or even just make the matter worse.
Yep, I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
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 Vicky, I'm sure that you've got some things to share with us and show us as well, that we're probably never seen in a contact center solution ever before. This is where it gets weird, so to speak, and very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So if I can share my screen, we're not going to get super deep into marketing today, but just to show you the breadth of the Sprinklr platform. So what we mean by whenever we have all of your marketing team, for example, living on Sprinklr, they're over here planning all their content to go out across all their different channels, whether that be their social channels, Google My Business, whatever that may be, advertising. At the same time, they're doing research. So doing all that listening all within Sprinklr. So this could be on the review sites, this could be on Yelp, Google My Business, for example, and then pulling together all that review information to inform their publishing strategy. And on the other hand, we've got what we've been talking about the entire time, the contact center. So everything from your intelligent routing to your agents, to your supervisors, to your quality managers, all sitting in the same space talking to each other. So this means, like, in effect, for example, if there is a huge influx, for example, of returns or refunds or exchanges, like, or asks about a certain product, this red shoes, for example, we can immediately notify the marketing team and we can automatically shut off all ads for those red shoes going out. We can automatically let them know that, hey, like, maybe you shouldn't organically post about this in the future until we get this figured out.
That's amazing. That's fresh. And I think also just the ability, from what I've seen as well, to publish content and federate content from the platform as well. It has some attributes of what you would see potentially in a marketing automation type of tool, or a tool that you use to update your social channels. So all of that, I think, we can cover maybe in another episode, because I believe we've maybe just scratched the surface of Sprinklr. But I think that what we've been able to see is where the strengths lie and the power of the platform, and ultimately how it could be a difference maker for an organization on the front end side, where you're looking to drive business and drive revenue, on the advocacy and the adoption side, where you're looking to support your products and services, where you're tied into your commerce network, where you're routing information and you're improving experience. This will not be the last time that we get together and go through this, so we'll put a pin in that. I want to thank you very much for joining today, Vicky and Jay, and we're going to go ahead and conclude our episode. I'm going to go ahead and drop you into automatically the green room, and I will conclude and be back with you in just a moment.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, there you have it. Sprinklr Unpacked, the uncontact center, most definitely, but in reality, maybe the epitome of the modern contact center. All weight is forward on AI, on omnichannel deep analytics. And as they continue to be taking down these big clients because people are seeing the power of the solution, their star is rising. And we believe it's going to be a solid option to have when evaluating new platforms. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe down below. Folks, if you want to be successful, let's go get it.